Hi guys, hope you are all doing well. Now, in this lecture, we will continue from this is not in continuation with the previous lecture, but we'll start with a new concept today. Now, the concept is average speed. Okay. Now, in this concept, a lot of students, especially those who are very much affected or inspired by the word average, they make the most mistakes. And what kind of mistakes do they make? I'll take an example and show what kind of mistakes do they make. And then to understand them better, we'll discuss in depth about what this average speed means. Okay. Now the example is as like this. Suppose this is a road and this is a midpoint, so A, B, and C. Since this is the midpoint, let's assume this part A to B is D and B to C is also D because this is the midpoint. This is equally divided by at point B. Now let's say a truck is traveling from point A to point C. Okay. Now in the first half, let's assume that in this stretch, the truck is traveling at a speed of 40 kilometer per hour, and in this stretch, the truck is traveling at 60 kilometer per hour. Now the question might say that what is the average speed of the truck for the whole journey? Now here most of the students like 80% जिन्होंने पहले इसको नहीं पढ़ा होता, what they do is they straight away say कि sir average speed is 40 plus 60 by 2, which is 100 by 2 equals to 50 kilometer per hour. ये average speed है. And this is completely wrong. This this is completely wrong. Very wrong. ये नहीं करना है. यही mistakes बहुत लोग करते हैं. Because whenever they hear average, they just go कि average का sum of the total observations, sum of all the observations upon total number of observations. या खत्म बात. आंसर निकालो. But here it doesn't work. यहाँ पे इन चीजों में जो अभी डेफिनेशन जो ये लगा है, this is called simple average. Here, in case of average speed, it's not just simple average. There's something called weighted average, which we will discuss in depth in probably the averages chapter, averages, mixes, and allegations. उसमें जब आएगा, तब I'll discuss in detail. I'll just briefly touch upon it, and then you will be able to understand why it doesn't work. Okay. So first of all, let's understand what does average mean. What does average mean? So average is a number that is used to represent a population. Okay. If I say, let's say, this is a class A, and there are 10 students, and this class B, there is also 10, it also has 10 students. Okay. Now it was observed that in class A, the average score in maths of the students is let's say 80 out of 100. Here the same thing is, here is 75 by 100. Now having seen this average, I can make a rough estimate ki if I want to send someone to represent the school for, let's say, maths Olympiad, I would have higher probability of finding a suitable candidate in section A, in class A, because the average score here is good, is higher than the average score in section B. So I can safely assume that here the majority of the students have are good at mathematics compared to section this class B. It's a fair assumption. Okay. To be very clear, the out of these 10 students in class A, there would be definitely some students who would score very poor marks, let's say 50 marks, 60 marks. But a majority of them, majority of the 10 students would be scoring some marks closer to 80. Would be 75, 80, 90, 95, something like this. It would be more tilted towards the higher end of the score. ठीक है. Whereas in this case, class B में the scores would be more centered around 75 के आसपास. ठीक है. So what does this tell you? So average is an indicative. It's a number that can be used to represent the population. And when I say population, doesn't mean कि एक population होना चाहिए, दो population या 1 करोड़ होना चाहिए. Any population. ठीक है. Now another property of average is that कि let's say for example I have let's say my board in boards 10th board I scored 90% overall 90%. ठीक है. But and when I got the school mark sheet, so I had the marks were like this: 90 in one subject, 95, okay, then 85, 80, and 100. So these were the marks. Now when I say okay, I got 80%, 90%, sorry. So overall I got 90%. So you can see I only got 90%, 90 marks in only one subject, not in every one of the subject. Okay, but still I got the average to be 90. So this situation, when I get the average to be 90%, I can hypothetically equate this situation as hypothetically equate this situation as getting 90 across all the subjects in individually. मतलब सब में अगर 90 marks मेरे को आते तो I would have achieved this percentage. And this is a hypothetical case. This is an equivalent of this. ठीक है. I hope you are able to understand this. And this is the इसका एक और example आप देखें. We often say that India is a very young country. ठीक है. India is a very young country. So a lot of people say कि why is India is a very young country? Because the average age of population is comes out to be somewhere. Let's say for example somewhere uh, 37. But does that mean that every person in India is 37-year-old? No. There must be people who are more than 100-year-olds, and there would be people who, which is especially babies, which are just 1 day old. आज ही पैदा हुआ या कल ही पैदा हुआ. But what happens is that the majority of the population is centered around this number. So big chunk of the population, big proportion of the total population, let's say out of 140, 60 CR, people have their ages close to 37, which means 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, for that matter, 38 also, 39 also you can take. These are the number these people would be having as their ages. The ages would be around these numbers. And a big chunk of that. Of course, people with age groups in the age groups 100 plus are also there, but their proportion or their quantity or number is very less. That is why we do not have the average population 100 towards 100. Okay. So now coming to the concept of average speed, drawing this analogy again only to for average speed. Now, let's say I travel from, let me say this is my journey, A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. Let's say these are all equal parts. This is also D, this is also D, this is also D, this is also D. Let's name it also. In fact, let D equals to uh, 10 kilometers. And let's say in this stretch, I travel at 5 kilometer per hour, here 2 kilometer per hour, here 5 kilometer, and here 10 kilometer per hour. These are the speeds at which I travel. Now, if I say my average speed is this something, let's say whatever it is. So when I say average, it is average. So I can assume that from the starting point, hypothetically, I can assume that from the starting point to the end point, I travel at this speed per hour. And a very common example of this is कि when आप कभी ट्रेन में travel करते होंगे, if you travel in trains, so you will see that the average speed of normal train comes out to be around 60 to 70 kilometer per hour. Okay. Now, is that the only speed that the trains travels? No. When you must have experienced it that in somewhere in between journeys, in the middle of a stretch, the train might have reached a very high speed also in between, and then it would have decelerated when it is approaching the next station, or somewhere at least 5 to 6 kilometers before before approaching the station, and it would be beyond the 60 kilometer per hour of speed. So what is happening? So it is reaching somewhere, accelerating, and then when it's coming close to the yeah, stopping point, which is the station, next station, it slows down. Okay. So of course, in every stretch, the speed might be different, but then on if we calculate the average, that will come out to be this somewhere close to 60. And since I get the average of 60, I can assume, hypothetically assume, that every hour from the journey, the train was traveling at 60 kilometer per hour. Now, someone might of you might say that, sir, if 60 kilometer per hour हुआ, so means the distances will also vary. How much distance it travels? Of course, it varies across every stretch, and the times will also vary. But the thing is, the speed is if you draw a graph of speed, so it will be like this. Like this. So ups and downs will be there. Let's say this is 60, this line. Okay. So in a particular phase, the speed is way above 60, it will come down, because there's a place, there's a patch where the speed is very below less than 60. Just just to give you an example. So axis and this the concept of axis, I would say equalization property of averages, which we will study in the next when we discuss averages. So what average does is, it equalizes everything amongst all the members. जो जिसके पास में है, एक्सिस है या कम है, डेफिशिएंसी है, सब में बराबर बांट देता है. So when I say कि the speed of train is 60 kilometer per hour, I can assume that every hour it travels 60 kilometers, and the total distance and total time taken should satisfy the math, which means that total distance is equals to average speed into total time taken. This should always satisfy. This relationship should hold true. So whatever the average speed for this represents the average speed of the entire journey. and this is the total time taken. If you multiply it, then it will give you the total distance that has been traveled from the start and the stop. Okay, so that is what it is. Now, I hope you are able to get it. Now, the next thing is कि what is इसका mathematical formula क्या है? So, average speed is equals to total distance traveled upon total time taken. This is the formula for average speed. And if you are able, sometimes very getting very confused, you are not able to understand what should be done, and your mind is forcing you to just take a simple average after just reading this average, simple average of the speeds. Then always just avoid that and just remember this formula. This will help you out like anything. It will keep you clear in mind. Total distance traveled by total time taken. That's it. Okay. This is the north star that we have to observe and keep walking and solving the questions. Whatever our mind might say कि okay ये तो average ले सकते हैं ठीक है approximate कर लो ऐसा. Don't do any approximation. Just follow this. Always remember this. कोई approximation कर रहा है तो you do approximations on this after getting the fraction or something like that. ठीक है. तो let's see. जो ऊपर का एग्जांपल है let's try to solve it. और let's say next example ले लेते हैं. चलो इसको देख लेते हैं. So in this case what you have to do, आपको डिस्टेंस दे रखा है हर स्ट्रेच का एंड स्पीड दे रखी है किस स्पीड से चले हैं वहां पे. सो व्हाट यू हैव टू डू इज फाइंड आउट द स्पीड. व्हाट विल बी द स्पीड? टोटल डिस्टेंस दैट्स डी एंड टोटल एंड द स्पीड फॉर द स्ट्रेच दिस इज 5 डी बाय 5. हियर इट्स डी बाय 2, डी बाय 5, डी बाय 10. So the average speed would be total is 4d, or d's, all the d's added, by total time taken. Total time taken would be um, d by 5 plus d by 2. Okay, d by 5 plus d by 2 plus d by 5 and d by 10. This is what we get. And इसको इनका सॉल्व कीजिए आप लोग भी. So this is what 10, 5, 2, 1 by 4. So what do you get? You get 4 into 10 by 2, 5, 7, 3, 10 by 10. फोर किलोमीटर पर आवर. ठीक है. That's how you work around the average speed. ठीक है. Now let's solve a couple of questions. ठीक है. चलिए फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन देखिए. इट्स वेरी सिंपल. आप जस्ट पुट द फॉर्मूला, गेट द आंसर, बट हैव पेशेंस, सॉल्व द क्वेश्चन. इट विल समवेयर हेल्प यू. ठीक है. सॉल्व एज मेनी क्वेश्चंस, इट विल जस्ट रीइंफोर्स योर what you have learned. ठीक है. So this says 120 kilometers in 3 hours. So total distance is 120 and total time taken is 3 hours. So average speed is equals to total time by total distance by total time. 120 by 3, which is 40 kilometer per hour. Okay. Similarly, just look at the next question. A cyclist covers 45 kilometers in 5 hours average speed. Very straightforward, say applying the same formula. It is 45 by 5, which is 9 kilometer per hour. Now let's look at this question. A person walks 8 kilometers in 2 hours and 6 kilometers in 1 hour. Very simple. D1 equals to 8, D2 equals to 6 kilometer, and time 1 is equals to 2 hours, and time for that is T2 is equals to 1 hour. Now total distance, which is 8 plus 6 is equals to 14 kilometer. So this is the total time taken would be uh, 2 plus 1, which is 3 hours. The average speed will come out to be 14 by 3. So this is the average speed at which the person would be traveling the whole journey. Now, moving on to the next question. A train travels 90 kilometers in 2 hours and 60 kilometers in 1.5 hours. The average speed of the train. Again, simple. Total distance by total time. This is equals to 90 plus 60 upon 2 plus 1.5. And this is 3.5. So this comes out to be 300 by 7. So this comes out to be 40, approximately I'm saying 43 or 42.83. Okay, now moving forward with the next question. A vehicle covers first half of the journey at 40 km per hour and the second half at 60 km per hour. Now this is a classic question. I have used this question as an example many times in my class, and people still make a lot of mistakes, and very rarely people answer the question correctly. So it's very simple. I even know the answer to this question also because I've done it so many times with my students to help them avoid the mistake. But then again, they just keep on repeating the same mistake. Let's say these are the 3 points, and this is B is the midpoint of AC. So first half of the journey, this was traveled at 40 kilometer per hour, and this was traveled at 60 kilometer per hour. Now, since this is the midpoint, both the these thing distances are equal. Let's say this is D, and this also will be D. Now total distance traveled is equals to 2d, and total time total time taken would be d by 40 plus t by 60. ठीक है, and average speed is equals to 2d upon d by 40 plus d by 60. ठीक है, अब देखिए यहाँ से डी डी कैंसिल हो जाता है, तो वी डोंट हैव टू टेक अ वैल्यू और डू कैलकुलेशन. ठीक है, दिस बिकम्स 2400 into 2 by 40 plus 60, this comes out to be 100 divided by 2400, 24, this comes out to be 48 kilometer per hour. So this is the correct answer. Now a lot of students, what they do in this particular question is keyword 50 plus 60, sorry, 40 plus 60 by 2, this comes out to 50. This is the answer. They say this, but this approach is wrong. अब इसको देखिए क्यों wrong हुआ कि when I say कि this is the average speed, I can assume what is the total journey, total time taken by कितना time है. Let's say if I assume d to be 240, suppose d is 240, so total d plus t is 480. Just a second. तो अब आप देखिए when I say कि average speed है, तो it should be applicable, the above formula should be applicable speed into time वाला. So ये वाले पार्ट में अब देखिए अगर मैं d को मान लेता हूँ, ओके 240 किलोमीटर, 240 किलोमीटर, तो टाइम निकालते हैं. तो पहले स्ट्रेच में द t1 विल बी 240 by 40 which is 6, and similarly t2 is equals to 240, क्योंकि ये स्ट्रेच भी 240 का है, 60 किलोमीटर पर आवर की स्पीड से ट्रेवल किया, तो बाय 60 दिस कम्स आउट टू बी 4. So total time taken would be 6 plus 4, which is 10 hours. Okay, and total distance traveled will be d plus d, which is 480, and the average speed will come out to be 48. And since आप ये देखिए कि the total time जो है आपका 10 hours है, if I multiply this with the average speed, I get 480 kilometers. Then that is the distance that we have traveled, actually traveled. D plus D आप करेंगे तो you will get this thing. D plus D करेंगे तो आपको मिल जाएगा 480 ही आएगा. ठीक है, अब 50 वाले में क्यों दिक्कत है, वाई 50 इज नॉट द एवरेज, तो अज्यूम दैट कि इट इफ इसी सिचुएशन में लीजिए कि टोटल लेट्स से डिस्टेंस है आपका 480 किलोमीटर, एंड इफ आई एम ट्रेवलिंग एट 50 दिस थिंग 50 किलोमीटर पर आवर, तो मेरा एवरेज स्पीड क्या हो गया, 480 by 50. ठीक है, व्हाट इज दिस, दिस इज 9.6, am I right or am I doing something wrong? तो दिस सेज कि 9.6 आवर्स लगा है मेरे को ट्रैवल करने. ठीक है, बट अगर आप देखें इंडिविजुअली इस जर्नी को देखें, अगर मैं यहाँ पे 24 इसमें 240 करता हूँ, तो इसको 6 और इसको 4, ये तो लगेंगे ही लगेंगे, 10 घंटे लग रहे हैं, और यहाँ पे एवरेज उसके हिसाब से मैं टाइम निकाला तो 9.6 आ रहा है. तो हियर द मैथ्स इज नॉट मैचिंग, एंड आर वे इज राइट बिकॉज वी हैव कैलकुलेटेड इट ऑन अ वेरी यूनिट लेवल. हमने क्या किया है, इस जर्नी को पूरा तोड़ा ए से बी के बीच में, एंड इसको स्टडी किया, एंड देन रेप्लिकेटेड इट टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट, एंड हेंस वी गॉट इट द आंसर, एंड आवर मैथ्स इज आल्सो मैचिंग. ठीक है, दैट इज द रीजन. a lot of students who could not understand the concept make a mistake. But you please do not do. We have discussed it in very detail also. Okay. Now moving forward, so the next question says a runner completes 12 kilometer in 50 minutes and 18 kilometer in 1 hour 10 minutes. What's the average speed? So again, distance traveled by total time taken. So total distance is 12 plus 18 and total time taken is 50 minutes. तो यहाँ पे लगा और 1 घंटा 10 मिनट यहाँ पे लगा. So if we add both of these, we get 2 hours. So average speed would be 30 by 2, which is 15 kilometers per hour. ठीक है. Now moving on to the next question, which says a bus travels from A to B at 54 km per hour and returns from B to A at 36 km per hour. So what is the average speed? Let's say this is A, this is B. तो ऑनवर्ड जर्नी में 54 वापस आने में 96. एक मिनट 36 सॉरी 36 किलोमीटर पर आवर एंड व्हाट दे आस्क्ड इसकी एवरेज स्पीड बताइए. तो इन इस केस पे देखिए टोटल डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल इज ये जो डी है यही इसी डिस्टेंस से वापस आएगा द बी फ्रॉम बी टू ए. तो द डिस्टेंस इज सेम. तो टोटल डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल्ड इज 2D एंड टोटल टाइम टेकन. टाइम निकालना है तो वो भी निकाल सकते हैं. टाइम टेकन इज पहले इस डिस्टेंस को ऐसे 54 की स्पीड से जाएंगे सो द टाइम टेकन वुड बी d by 54 and for this 36 the time taken will be d by 36. ठीक है. Now simplifying this what do we get? 2 upon 36 plus 54 this into 54 into 36. So 2 into 54 into 36 by 90. So 18 5s are 18 3s are. So what do we get? 5 into 3. एक minute. Just a second. What we have done is just write it here. तो confusion हो रहा है. Just a calculation error. ठीक है. So you can calculate this. Answer you can calculate. This will be the answer. Uh, 54 into 30 is 1620. 54 into 6 is it 54 into 6 is 324, which is 4419 into 2. 1944 into 2 by 100 comes out to be 3888. 38.88 kilometer per hour. So this is the average. Oh, average. हाँ, average speed is correct. 38.8. ठीक है. I hope अभी तक कोई डाउट ना हो. If at all there is something, please do let me know via the comments, or you can just also rewatch the entire till now what we have covered and try doing it again. Okay. Let's see. The next question says a car covers certain distance in 3 equal parts. It travels the first part by 30, second by 45, and third by 60. Find the average speed of the whole distance. Again, same question, similar question we've done above. Let's draw. And if you observe that for every question, I am again and again drawing it. I'm re-emphasizing it again. I did that in the previous lecture also. Please draw. Okay. Three equal parts हैं A, B, C, and D. So the first part, इस part को let's say D था, ये भी D है, ये भी D है. First part को travel किया है 30 किलोमीटर पर आवर में. Second is 45 किलोमीटर पर आवर. The third is 16 किलोमीटर पर आवर. 60 किलोमीटर पर आवर. ठीक है. Now first of all तो टाइम हमें स्पीड पता है, हमें इसमें डिस्टेंस निकालना है. तो total distance traveled is 3D. और टाइम इज D/30 प्लस D/15 प्लस D/16. This is 45. Now calculating this D को cancel कर सकते, we can cancel out the D by taking it common. So what will be left is 3 upon 1/30 plus 1/45 plus 1/60. What do we get? The LCM, we have to take LCM, comes out to be 180, and this is 6 plus 4 plus 3. Are we doing some mistake of some kind or what? No, I think so. 6, 4, 10, 30. Hmm. So the answer comes out to be uh, 540 by 13, which is 41 by 13. ठीक है. चलिए, moving on to the next question. A boat goes downstream and returns in the upstream. So पहले तो देखिए, ये the concept of upstream and downstream of a river is something that I'll take up in this playlist only, in this chapter only. Time speed distance में आता है एक boats and streams, उसमें we'll discuss. But since the question has come, so I'll just briefly discuss this about this. कि what does this upstream and downstream mean? So when I was in class 10, so I used to study this. इसके बहुत सारे questions आते थे upstream downstream के in solving the linear equations. So at that time, what I used to think was कि maybe downstream means going below the water and upstream is coming upside on the water. And since हमेशा हम ये देखते थे कि it was read कि downstream में river का भी support मिलता है boat को. So I thought कि what does happen? What is it that happens inside the water? Extra speed मिलता है क्या? And why is it not happening on the upper surface, outside the water? So I used to really used to get confused. Then after some time when I was preparing for CAT, then I saw some video, then I came to know, okay, this means downstream, and what means upstream also. So let me just draw it here and explain. Agar let's say this is the river and it is flowing in this direction, and I am traveling in a boat in this along the river in the same direction as river, then it's called upstream. Sorry, downstream. Okay. And in case, just in case, if it so happens that boat is traveling in this direction while the river is traveling here, So we'll say कि when it is going opposite the direction of the river, it is called the upstream. Because we'll understand why opposite means upstream. ठीक है. तो अब इसमें डाउनस्ट्रीम अपस्ट्रीम में अंतर क्या है, अब और क्या होता है, ठीक है. ये तो बता दिया अपन कि किसको डाउनस्ट्रीम कहते हैं, किसको अपस्ट्रीम कहते हैं. सो अब अगर इस डायरेक्शन में रिवर चल रही है, ठीक है, एंड आई एम ऑल्सो मूविंग इन दिस डायरेक्शन. So what will get? I will get a support from the river. If you would have seen, if you have traveled to airport, there is a walking escalator for walking. So it is also going in the same direction, and people are walking in the same direction. Both of them are walking in the same direction. So what happens? If you are standing on a ground, it would appear that the person who is walking on the escalator is walking very fast. It just came in and swooped in. So what is happening? The person that person would be walking at his normal pace, which would seem very easy and very slow, but it is getting the support of the moving escalator beneath him, which is providing an extra push. So when the boat is traveling in downstream, so it gets the support of the river. So if it's traveling in still water, मतलब कि अगर पानी रुका हुआ है, तो अगर बोट चल रही है तो वो किस कैसे चलेगी, its own innate speed or some the motor that it has. So basically its boat's intrinsic speed will be used to move across any point across the area when the water is still. It's not flowing, it's still. So let that speed be u, and river is traveling at a speed of v in the direction in the downstream. So that would be v, u plus v. And in opposite direction, what will happen? The river will penalize you for coming in the opposite direction. So every second, if your speed is the speed of river is u, and the speed of the boat is u, and speed of the river is v. So in that case, the net speed would be u minus v. ठीक है. I hope this is clear. Now, what the question is saying is 24 kilometers downstream and in 2 hours, and returns upstream in 3 hours. So what do we have? We have total distance. Total distance is 24 plus 24 by total time taken. We 2 hours plus 3 hours, which is 48 by 5, which comes out to be 9.6 kilometer per hour. Okay, ठीक है. चलिए, moving ahead. Okay, what does this question say? A person travels one third of a journey at 20 kilometer per hour, and one third of the journey at 30 kilometer, and the remaining 60. Find the average speed. Again, same question. Let's say these are the three parts. They are all equal because one third बोला है तो बराबर ही है सारे के सारे. So let's say this patch is traveled at 20 kilometer per hour. This is at 30. This is at this is 60. ठीक है. Average speed would be total distance. Let's say इसको मैं d मानता हूँ एक stretch को. And what do we get? Total distance is 3d upon time taken is d by 20 plus d by 30 plus d by 60. Again, do the same math again. What you will get? 3 upon dd cancel. The have to take the LCM below. यहाँ पे LCM आएगा 60, which comes out to be 3 plus 2 plus 1, which comes out to be 3 into 60 by 3 plus 2 plus 6. ओके, ठीक है, चलिए, लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. दिस क्वेश्चन इज स्लाइटली ट्रिकी but not that difficult. Let's just go through the question. तो इसमें क्या बता रहा है कि Brishi took a trip, 8 hour trip in the car, and she traveled X kilometers. And when she reached here, where the X kilometer, और ये जो X kilometers है, is a palindromic. Okay, sorry. X is not the total kilometer. So let me just again put it here. Misread the question. So yeah. So before the trip, the car had traveled a total of X kilometers till then. So when this be the starting point, this is X kilometers. The odometer जो कार का होता है, जहाँ speedometer पे कहते हैं जिसे, that is showing X kilometers. And this X is a palindrome. Palindrome I hope सबको पता हो, but नहीं तो फिर बता देता हूँ. Palindrome क्या होता है? कोई ऐसा नंबर जिसको ओके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल 1 3 1, अब 3 के लेफ्ट साइड में जो है वही इसके 3 के राइट साइड में भी. सिमिलरली आप ये नंबर जो दे रखा है इस क्वेश्चन में, 26826, 8 के बीच साइड में जो नंबर है, सॉरी 6 2 आएगा. 8 के लेफ्ट, इमीडिएट लेफ्ट में जो नंबर है वही इमीडिएट राइट में भी, और सेकंड टू द लेफ्ट जो नंबर है दैट इज 2, वही नंबर सेकंड टू द राइट में भी. सो बेसिकली इस मिडिल एक्सिस से एवरीथिंग इज काइंड ऑफ मिरर इमेज, उसे कहते हैं पैलिंड्रोम. ठीक है. तो व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज आस्किंग अस इज दैट द कार ट्रेवल एक्स किलोमीटर्स. ठीक है, 8 आवर ट्रिप लिया उसने, और चलने से पहले द मीटर रीडिंग वाज 26862 किलोमीटर. ठीक है. And after 8 hours, when she reached here, the distance that she traveled, uh, including adding that to this, उसकी यहाँ पे जो इस पॉइंट पे जो फाइनल कार के स्पीडोमीटर की रीडिंग थी, that also was a palindrome. एक मिनट, सॉरी, ओके, माय मिस्टेक, आई हैव डन द मिस्टेक इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. सो ये 268 जो है, दिस इज द रीडिंग हियर, 268 262, सॉरी. दिस रीडिंग इज द रीडिंग आफ्टर कंप्लीटिंग दिस एक्स किलोमीटर. ये जर्नी कंप्लीट करने के बाद जो है ये रीडिंग शो कर रहा है स्पीडोमीटर. एंड उससे पहले जो यहाँ पे स्पीडोमीटर रीडिंग शो कर रहा था, दिस वाज आल्सो अ पैलिंड्रोम, एंड दिस जर्नी वाज 8 hours लॉन्ग. नाउ व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज आस्किंग अस इज, इफ वृष्टि नेवर ड्रोव मोर देन 110 किलोमीटर पर आवर, मतलब 110 किलोमीटर पर आवर से इसकी उससे ऊपर उसकी स्पीड कभी नहीं गई, देन व्हाट इज द ग्रेटेस्ट पॉसिबल एवरेज स्पीड दैट एट विच शी ड्रोव ड्यूरिंग द ट्रिप इन किलोमीटर पर आवर. मतलब कि उसकी एवरेज स्पीड क्या हो सकती है, हाईएस्ट वैल्यू क्या हो सकती है एवरेज स्पीड की, if it is not if she does not travel at a speed above 110 किलोमीटर. तो हाउ टू अप्रोच जिसमें इस क्वेश्चन को करने के लिए आपके पास को थोड़ा सा, इट इज नॉट डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड टू स्पीड टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस, बट थोड़ा सा नंबर सिस्टम को भी यूज करना होगा. नाउ अज्यूम, नॉट अज्यूम बट ऑब्जर्व, 26862 है. तो इसका, लेट मी राइट द नंबर ओवर हियर, 26862. If I want to get another pen drop, the easiest thing for me to do is 26762. ऐसा कर दूं, ठीक है, या 26562 और 462, ऐसा कुछ कर दूं. आई ऑल ऑफ दीज नंबर्स आर अगेन पैलिंड्रोम्स. ठीक है. अब आप ये देखिए कि यहाँ से यहाँ कोई भी कंसेक्यूटिव का डिफरेंस क्या रहा है, 100 किलोमीटर. अब अगर 100 किलोमीटर ट्रेवल किया है वो भी 8 घंटे में, तो उसकी स्पीड क्या होगी? 100 किलोमीटर 8 घंटे में, तो 12.5 क्या, बट दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल, वो तो ऑप्शन में नहीं है। और प्लस ये तो लार्जेस्ट पॉसिबल स्पीड है नहीं, ये वन ऑफ द इट कुड बी, बट इट इज नॉट द लार्जेस्ट पॉसिबल। अगर मैं इसको थोड़ा और बढ़ा दूं, ये 200 की जगह 200 कर दूं, तो क्या होगा? इट विल बी 200/8 विच विल बी 25 km/h। बट स्टिल आई कैन स्टिल स्ट्रेच इट, क्योंकि अभी एवरेज स्पीड क्या आ रही है मेरी, बहुत कम, 25 km/h आ रही है। आई हैव स्कोप ऑफ गोइंग टू 110 km/h। आई होप ये आप लोग को समझ में आ रहा हो। मैं लिख के भी बता देता हूँ। लेट्स से इफ आई टेक इंस्टेड ऑफ दीज टू कंसेक्यूटिव नंबर्स, आई टेक दिस टू। अब ये वाला और एक ये वाला, तो इनमें अंतर कितना है? अच्छा, ये 5 ले लिया, इट शुड बी एक 6 वाला भी आना चाहिए था, बट ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, भी इससे भी काम चल जाएगा। So the difference is 300 kilometers, and it is in 8 hours. So the speed would be 4 twos are 475, which is 37.5 kilometer per hour. ठीक है, 37.5 kilometer per hour. But I still have the scope of going till 110. So why not use it? तो ऐसे ही बढ़ाते जाऊं, 300 जैसे 100 का मैं 300 किया, ऐसे करते करते मैं एक पॉइंट आएगा जब मैं 26062 पे आ जाऊंगा। ठीक है, तो यहां से यहां जाने में मुझे कितना डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल करना पड़ा, 800। और स्पीड टोटल टाइम क्या है मेरे पास, 8 आवर्स। तो दिस गिव्स मी एवरेज स्पीड टू बी 100 km/h। ठीक है, अब इसको और थोड़ा नीचे लेके जाते हैं, इसके अब यहाँ से और नेक्स्ट प्लेनड्रोम क्या मिलेगा? वो तो ऐसे ही कुछ मिलेगा, 25952, जो इसके नियरेस्ट होगा। अब उसमें और इसमें अंतर कितना है? 48। इसको सब्ट्रैक्ट करके देख लीजिए, 26062, 595 प्लस 5611, 11 तो 110 किलोमीटर और। अब मैं इसको यहाँ से और 110 किलोमीटर लेता हूँ, एंड मैं इसको रखता हूँ, 8 आवर्स तो है ही, तो टोटल डिस्टेंस क्या हो जाएगा? 800 प्लस 110, एंड दिस इज द टोटल डिस्टेंस, एंड एवरेज टोटल टाइम टेकन इज 8 आवर्स अगेन। आई हैव ओनली 8 आवर्स, तो 910/8, दिस विल गिव मी हाउ मच? ये तो मेरे लिए ज्यादा हो गया, ये तो 880 से भी ऊपर आ रहा है, मतलब 110 km/h से ऊपर की तरफ आ रहा है, ज्यादा है। तो दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, तो मुझे यहीं तक ही लेना है। यानी यहाँ पे लूंगा तो द डिस्टेंस वुड बी 800 किलोमीटर, एंड टाइम इज 8 आवर्स, एंड 100 km/h गिव्स विल बी द एवरेज स्पीड। सो माय ऑप्शन वुड बी, आई हैव 4 ऑप्शन भी है, तो दिस विल बी द करेक्ट ऑप्शन, ऑप्शन सी। ठीक है, तो आई होप आपको ये सारा लेक्चर समझ में आया हो। We discussed a lot of questions, around 10 questions, 11 questions in fact, and some of these questions are from CAT, past year CAT questions, and kuch I have generated on my own, prepared my questions on my own. Not I did not prepare it, I used AI, so that is there. Please do the questions again on your own. That will give you a lot of confidence and give you a lot of clarity of the concept also. So, ठीक है, see you in the next lecture. Happy learning. Bye. Thank you.